Mr. Speaker, just commenting on that member who just took his seat, I think some of the words that he used quite often were things like hypocrite and duplicitous.
Order. I didn't hear a member use those words. At least one of them, if referring to a member of parliament, is out of order. The member is not allowed to repeat them. She either had to take a point of order at the time, or she's got to let it go. She cannot repeat them. Melissa Lee.
Thank you for that, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to remind the House that that is the member who used to be the Minister for Foreign Affairs, who actually went overseas under the Labour government, who actually went overseas touting the foreign investment for actually selling New Zealand goods overseas. And I have to give him one thing, though. He is consistent. He is just anti-everyone. Sir, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to actually sort of just on that note, just commenting about that member who actually sat down, I'm just reminded of a lesson that my mother taught me a long, long time ago. And it's a proverb in Korean, and it actually says, 빈 도라묵깡통이 시끄럽다. And I think there's actually an English version which actually says, an empty vessel makes most noise. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to rise in support and praise the excellent work of the Minister of Finance, Honourable Bill English, sir. The budget he presented this year will give relief and support to thousands of Kiwi-owned businesses and workers right around New Zealand, and it's a great pleasure to speak in the support of these aspirations and the needs of New Zealanders, sir. It was a pleasure to also work with the Minister, caucus colleagues, and my fellow Select Committee members in the Commerce Select Committee, which is a fabulous Select Committee, so I don't know if you've actually noticed that we actually work together very well. We even bring baking to our Select Committee, and it's very work-conducive, kind of very happy committee, collegial, that's right, Mr. Simpson, collegial committee. We work very well together. And to pass the vote estimates for the issues that my Select Committee had oversight, so we actually worked very hard. In the Commerce Select Committee, so we discussed a wide range of important areas that were being funded through the estimates bill. As I'm sure all members of this House have taken time to read it, sir, and the appropriation of 2015-16 will give strong backing to the ongoing work of our John Key-led national government. The vote estimates in commerce are impressive, sir. They see $153 million for the commerce and consumer affairs sector to support enterprise, small business, and investment. There will be $250 million for communication innovations in the mobile and broadband sector, sir. And that is very, very important because most of us tend to use our phones, not just for telephone calls, but also for broadband, for internet, and also even watching social media and also television, sir, or YouTube, and lots of other entertainment as well as information gathering. So there will be $456 million for economic development. Economic development, Mr. Speaker, is the keystone issue for our party. Also, there is $139 million for the tourism sector, sir. And hot off the press, I saw in the press release from our Honourable Paula Bennett that 1.4 million visitors, these are overseas visitors, have visited the Otago region, and I'm sure my colleague Jackie Dean will be very happy of that. 1.4 million international visitors just to the Otago region, and that means that they've actually spent $1.3 billion, not million, mind you, $1 billion, and that is an increase of 6.3%. It's the economic growth in the Otago region for 6.3%. That's well above other areas, and I think that has to be the growth. Somebody earlier commented about rockstar economy. Well, I am very jealous that Otago has a rockstar economy. Well done you, Jackie Dean. Sir, the appropriations are sound, reasonable, and putting more workers in the workplace and businesses into profitable gain. This government has worked well to support families, working hard, supporting business, working hard, and importantly, sir, they in turn support the government to work hard. It's sort of almost a full circle. I know that earlier Julianne Genter sort of talked about the vulnerable people in this country. Sir, I think all of us right across this House want to make sure that we provide for the people who are vulnerable. And I'm reminded of a comment that the Prime Minister actually said. To grow our economy, we are never ever going to get rich by selling to our own self. We have to actually go out there and sell New Zealand produce, New Zealand products, New Zealand technology to the rest of the world. And we have to bring in foreign currency in order for us to actually grow our economy. And the FTA with South Korea is a fantastic one, Mr. McIndoe. Thank you very much for that. And I am just surprised that we actually had a bipartisan agreement across the House where Labour was supportive of free trade agreements, I would have thought. And I know that Mr. Phil Goff has actually worked very hard to promote that. I see him at ethnic events promoting the fact that they actually support ethnic communities. But I'm very surprised that they actually support members within their own caucus who actually promote xenophobia almost. National Party was the first party in New Zealand to elect a Chinese member of Parliament back in 1996. And the opposition seemed to somehow, make ethnic and Kiwi mutually exclusive, that they don't actually go together, sort of like water and oil. It's sort of like as if ethnic New Zealanders don't actually belong in this country. And whenever they actually talk about these things, it seems to bring out that racism that actually exists in New Zealand and actually brings out to the fore. And recently we talked about, the biggest investor to New Zealand, it actually came from Canada. But nobody on that side of the House is actually talking about banning Canadian-sounding names, because it's easy to just say, let's just ban ethnic Chinese-sounding names to actually invest in New Zealand. I think, it is very irresponsible of them to actually say these things. And, I fret for the children who are actually growing up in this country, that we as role models in this House, a representative, are acting in this way, that we are being exclusive, that people who look like me and maybe sound like me, maybe that's not an excuse. Although I'm not Chinese, often when I walk down the street, people assume that I am Chinese, and they have racist comments like, gosh, you speak good English for a Chinese person. I mean, that is racist. That is unacceptable in this day and age in this country, which, we celebrate multiculturalism in this country. We actually celebrate the diversity that we have in this country, and it's unacceptable that members of Parliament would actually act in that way, sir. Sir, we're doing a fantastic job as a government. I sort of look back to when Labour actually left the Treasury benches in 2008, and I remember having to pay double figures in interest rates for my mortgage. And for most New Zealand households, the biggest outgoing is their mortgage repayments. And just on that note, our mortgage interest rates are now almost half. Or sometimes, I think it's bigger than half, isn't it? That we've actually had a major cut in interest rates. And what that really means, sir, is that every household that pays a mortgage, they're now paying half what they used to pay back in 2008. That is a gain, sir. And this national-led government is making sure that we actually are trading with our neighbours. We're not being racist. We're actually open to the world, and we are welcoming trade from overseas. We're welcoming investment from overseas. We're welcoming the growth of this nation and this economy for the benefit of all New Zealanders, sir. Because a better performing economy means better performing families, means healthier, more wealthy family, and that is the outcome that this government is working towards, sir. I think we should definitely congratulate the Minister for Finance for providing that, and the leadership that he has actually shown for that. As a national member of parliament, it is always a privilege to represent New Zealanders from all walks of life, and by being able to speak to the advancement of our economy and social interests, sir. I will always be grateful for that opportunity, as I believe that it is actually for the greater New Zealand. I commend it.